Good evening, Elazar.
Evening. How are you?
Hello, Rabbi Doctor.
Good. Okay. We're on Lamed Ches, Amud Aleph, 38. Mario's not here. Let me see if we can get Mario on the line.
Hello.
Hi, Mario. Good.
Wait. I have to get something.
Okay.
And maybe I can hear as well. Okay.
Okay. I want to discuss Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, but before I want to make plans for tomorrow. Tomorrow night is 8 o'clock, the Reisman Shir at 8 p.m. So we normally learn at 7:30. But I have a business meeting tomorrow. I can teach at 9 o'clock, or if that's too late, I can do both blot tonight.
Whatever they want to do.
Whatever everybody else wants to do, you let me know. Okay, so Lamed Ches Amud Aleph. Nikanor nasu nisim l'dal toisav. So the Mishnah said that also the Nikanor donated gates to the Azara, and it was Maisa Nisim. So the Bryce is going to explain. Ton Rabbanan. Ma Nisim nasu l'dal toisav. What were the miracles that happened with these gates of the Shari Nikanor? Amru, Kishalach Nikanor lavi dalsos malach zan shel Mitzrayim. Nicanor was traveling to Alexandria to get these beautiful copper doors. It's not surprising. Alexandria was New York City or London. I mean, that was the capital of the world. All the great university was there. The library was there. I mean, great businesses were there. So he went to Alexandria to get these doors. There was like a typhoon. They were going back by ship, and the ship was gonna sink. These were very heavy doors. They took one of the doors, threw it into the water to lighten the ship so that it would float better. The storm was still raging. Bikshu lahatilas chaverta. So the seamen in charge of the boat wanted to throw the other door off. Amadu ukracha. So Nikanor stood up, sort of, surrounded the door with his arms. Amar lahem itiluni ima. Well, if you're going to throw the door in, you're going to have to throw me in with the door. Miyad nachayami zapo. When he said that, the ocean settled down. He showed that he was ready to be moister nefesh. So the boat traveled and came to Akko or whatever port was there. Vayamid style chaverta. He was upset that they had thrown the other door into the yam. Yeah, Kivin Shigil and the Malashal Akko. They got to the port of Akko. The door that they threw in had sort of stuck itself to the bottom of the ship, even though it's a heavy door. Normally would have sunk, but it came with it. Yesh oimrim ber yeshbiyam beloso v'kiyasol yabasha. Some say some sea creature, swallowed it and spit it out on the shore. The Alea Omar Shlomo, on this episode, Shlomo Melech in Shir Hashirim wrote, Koros Batenu Arazim, the walls of our house is cedar. Rahitenu berosim. And al tikra berosim ela bris yam. This is a covenant that the ocean made with the door. So that's the berosim. Lefichach kol ha'sha'arim shai b'mikdash nishtan al yoshel zav. Chutz b'shari nikanor. When they remodeled and they made all the gates, the doors of the gates out of gold, because initially they were other metal, they got wealthier, they made them out of gold. The Shari Nicanor to enter the Azara on the east side remained copper because of the nisim that happened with those doors. The copper gave off like a glowing tint. Rabbi Yezer ben Yaakov Oimer, Nechoshes kloinisa haisa. This was a special shiny copper. It looked like gold. So the previous Mishnah talked about people that were being remembered for good. Zecher tzadik livracha. Like Munvaz HaMelech, Hileni HaMelech, Nicanor. So in contrast, the next Mishnah, Ve'elu Lignai, the following either families or people are reminded for bad. Shel Beis Garmu Lorotzu L'Lamed Al Ma'aseh Lechem Aponim. The family of Garmu, they had the patent, the copyright on making the Lechem Aponim. And they didn't want to teach anybody else to do it because it would take away their monopoly. Shel Beis Avtinas, Loratzu L'Lamed Al Ma'aseh Ktoires. The family of Avtinas, they had this secret ingredients of how to make the Ktoires, and they didn't want to teach anybody else. Hugris ben Levi, Haya Yodea Perek Bashir, he knew how to sing, how to make a certain beautiful voice. The Loratzu L'Lamed, he didn't want to teach other people how to do it. Ben Kamser Loratzu L'Lamed Al Ma'aseh Ksav. We'll see, Ben Kamser was a sofer. He used to be able to take 4 pens, put them in between his 4 fingers, and he could write he could write a word of 4 letters at one time with the 4 pens. On the previous Mishnah, people, we say, we remember them livracha. The name of Rishoim should rot, is what we say about these people. Torah Rabbanon, Beis Garmu became b'ma'aseh lechem aponim, v'lo l'lamed. They were expert in lechem aponim, they didn't want to teach anybody. Shalchu chachamim ve'viu unim l'Alexandria shel Mitzrayim. The chachamim sent for specialist exam from Alexandria, because of course that was the seat of learning. So they sent for experts from Alexandria. Now, they could bake the lechem aponim the same way, but Redias hapas is removing the pas from the wall of the oven. And that was the way the lechem aponim were built, like a U, if you remember, like a U. And then they were stacked up 6 and 6. So it was difficult to remove this lechem and lose this special shape that it had. So that was the trick. And what was the trick? The people from Alexandria would heat up the oven from outside and bake on the outside. But the Beis Garmu, they would heat up the oven from the inside and they would bake it on the inside. Halalu pita misapeshes. The Alexandrian bread would get stale. Halalu ein pita misaseshes. But the Beis Garmu, the challah would stay fresh. Kisheshamu Chachamim b'davar. The Chachamim had fired the Beis Garmu because they hired their own people, but it was not gelungen. It didn't work well. So when the Chachamim saw what happened, they said, "Kol masha bar Kadosh Baruch Hu l'chvodo, bro. Listen, everything that Hashem made in the world, it's for His covet. Shenemar kol anikra bishmi v'lichvoidi barasi. So we have to return the family who knew how to make it properly, so it would be a better covet for Kadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, Chazru Beis Garmul and Koiman, they returned them to their job. Sholchulam Chacham v'loy bo. So they wanted them to come back, but they refused to come back. Kafulem schar anuvo. They doubled their salary and they came. They held out for a higher salary. Previously, they would take 12 mana per day, and today they took 24 mana per day. It's a lot of money. Each mana is 100 zuz. Talk about 1,200 zuz per day. Remember, they used to give a ksuba. Messiah mana to a psula was Messiah mana, and for almana was a meya mana. But we know a ksuba is a lot of money. It's like 50 today. It's $50,000. It's a significant sum. So yeah, just have to see how what a big sum for their payment of their services was. In fact, Rabbi Yudoim B'chol Yom Esrim V'Arba V'Yom Arboim U'Shmona, they were paid 48 mana, 4,800 zuz per day. Amar Lem Chachamim, Mara Yisam Shalol Alamed. They finally asked them, why didn't you teach this? Amar Lahem, Yoidin Ayushal Beis Abba Shabai Zeh Osid Lechorev. We knew we had a Masorah from our family that the Beis Hamikdash will be destroyed. So if we go ahead and teach people how to do this, some guy's going to learn it, and he's going to become an Avodah Zarah Nick. He's going to bake these lechems for the Avodah Zarah. So for that, they were remembered for praise. And something else that they were remembered for praise. The people in the family, when you see them walking around in the street, you wouldn't see them eating white bread. They would be eating like Kimmelbräut, bad quality, because so that people wouldn't say, oh, you know what, these people are eating from the lechem haponim. Because there's a special pasuk that you have to be clean in the eyes of Klal Yisrael regarding financial issues. Then the Gemara says, the family of Beis Avtinas, they were in charge of making the Torahs. And they also didn't teach this to other people. They were also expert in the making of the Torahs. They didn't want to teach anybody. The Chachamim sent for workers from Alexandria. They knew how to mix the ingredients, but the Torahs was special that the smoke would go up straight, and then it would spread like that, or like a ceiling. So that means the Beis Avtinas, they knew how to do it properly. It would go up straight. But the Alexandrians, it would scatter. It would not go up straight. Everything that's made is made to give covenant for Hashem. So therefore, Chazru Beis Avtinas Limkolim. They recalled Beis Avtinas because they wanted a more kovedik Ketores. Sholchalem Chachamim V'Loibo. Again, they refused to come. Kaflulem Schar Nuvo. They doubled their payment. They came. Same shita. Why did you not teach? Our family also had a Masorah that this Beis HaMikdash is going to be destroyed. So maybe we're going to teach this to somebody who's not trustworthy. And he'll take the knowledge of the Torah, they'll worship Avodah Zarah. And the Aldovers of Maskiros and Shvach, for another episode, they were remembered for praise. If you got married into their family, a kala would not be given perfume. And even when they would marry women from other places, they would make it tanai that they would not wear perfume. They didn't want people to think that they were taking from the Ketores. I was once walking on the road, and I met up with one of the grandchildren, or great-grandchildren, one of the ancestors, one of the surviving members of the family. By your ancestors wanted to keep their covet high by not teaching people. And therefore it led to less covet for Kodesh Baruch Hu. But the covet of Kodesh Baruch Hu still now stands. However, but your covet, the family got wiped out basically. They were no longer needed or important. Rabbi Kiva Pamachas Sachli Rabbi Shmuel ben Loiga. Once Rabbi Shmuel spoke to Rabbi Kiva Pamachas, who told him, I went out with one of the grandchildren of this family to go and gather grasses. He was laughing and crying. Said, why are you crying? I remembered what a great honor my family used to have and what happens and where they are now. Why are you laughing? Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to return this job to us when he rebuilds the Beis HaMikdash. Now, they asked the kid, what made you remember this all of a sudden? Oh, I see a grass in front of me that's called Mala Oshan, which means raise the smoke. And this was that ingredient that made the smoke of the Ketores rise in its special way. So he asked him, Areuli. So the Rav asked this child, show me which grass it is. Omarli, we all take a shvua that we don't show this to anybody else. I once found an elder, Megillah Samamon Biyodo. He had a Megillah that had the whole recipe of what spices to use for the Ketores. Amarti Lamainato. So the Rav Yochanan asked him, who are you? I'm from the family of Avtinas. What's in your hand? Megillah Samamonim. This is the recipe book. So Rav Yochanan said, Harayoli, show it to me. Armali calls Manshebe Sabahayu Kayamin. When the family was around, we never gave it to anybody. Okay, now I give it to you. Be careful with it. Now they gave it to you. We're not allowed to, speak ill of them. Mikan Amar Ben Azai b'shimcha yikra'ucha u'v'mokom yoshivucha. Person shouldn't worry. Let's say all of a sudden his parnasa goes down. Eventually, person's shame will be called back, and he'll be called back to his normal parnasa. U'mishalcha yitnu lecha. Everyone has everything. Everything is prepared for everybody. It's all declared from Shamayim. Ein adam noigeh b'muchan l'chavero. That which is set aside for Chaim Yankel, you can't touch. What's set aside for you is for you. What's set aside
I won't hear anything. He muted himself.
Yeah,
Ernie, you muted yourself
when? Just like-
about 3
No.
minutes ago.
yeah,
What?
that's okay now. It's okay
Anyone
now.
that is set aside, you said for you talking about set aside for Panosa, whatever.
Everything is set aside. What is set aside for Chaim Yankel is set aside for Chaim Yankel. It has nothing to do with you. What's set aside for you is for you. What's set aside for somebody, Yenim is Yenim's. That's this kind. Ein adam nogeh b'muchan l'chavero. So and ein malchus noigas b'chaverta filu kamolei nima. One malchus doesn't begin until the other malchus ends. The king is dead. The king is dead. Long live the king. And we have it by Eli HaKohen, right? Before Eli HaKohen passed away, there was Shmuel HaNavi that came into the scene. When Eli dies, Shmuel immediately takes over. Then Hugris ben Levi sang beautifully. He didn't want to teach people how to sing. He would put his thumb in his mouth, and he would put his finger by his mouth, and he could emit such a loud sound with this technique that it would throw the Kohanim back. But he didn't want to teach this, so therefore, he's remembered for evil. Torah Bonon, Ben Kamser Loratza Lamin Al Maisaksav. He had a special way of writing. He didn't want to teach it. He would hold 4 pens between his fingers. If there was a word with 4 letters, he could write the one word out of 4 letters at the same time with the 4 pens. He was like a word processor. So they asked, why didn't you want to teach this? Ben Kamser had no reason why he didn't want to teach it. It was all for his own covet. So that's why Rishonim Nemar Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Ben Kamser v'Chaver Nemar v'Shem Risham Yirkov. Their name should rot. My v'Shem Risham Yirkov. Amar Balazar Rakvivus Tala B'Shmoisim Lo Maskinim B'Shmayu. That means their names, but no one will ever use their names. We don't call people by their names anymore because that's why we don't remember them. So Mosif Ravina. Maisa B'Doeg Ben Yosef. Now we know Doeg, Edomi, is a big Russia. He's one of the people who doesn't have Olam Haba. So how could he be called Doeg? That basically is going to be the Gemara's question. But let's see the story of Doeg. Maisa B'Doeg Ben Yosef, Shinicho Avi Ben Katan Li'imo. That he was left as an orphan. His father died, and he was an orphan child given to his mother. The family was very wealthy. The mother would weigh him every day and give his weight in gold to the base of Mikdash as a donation. However, Kishagover Oyev, when the Romans came in, Tvachto v'chalto. Or this could be also by the first base of Mikdash when it was destroyed. That the mother shechted the kid, v'chalto and ate him, because the famine was so severe. That pasuk in Eicha is referring to that Maisa. And there was a reason for it, because the way they treated Zechariah Navi, Zechariah, they killed Zechariah. There's also a kina regarding that. But basically, the Gemara's kasha is, how could they name him Doeg? How could they name Doeg? We're not supposed to name people after Rishonim. So the Gemara answers, yeah, Chazim might solid, but look what happened to him that he was named Doeg. He got eaten. Tzadik me'atzmo. That Tzadik is praised all the time. V'rosha mechavero. Rasha is cursed, and also when they by his own actions and by his friends as well. Tzadik me'atzmo d'chsiv zecher tzadik livrocha, which is a lashon yachid, and v'rasha mechavero d'chsiv v'shem rishoim yirkav, which is plural, means even the chaverim get involved. Ravina said to Al Talmid Chacham, Dav Mesader Agadata Kamei, who would organize the Agadata in front of him. Menoah Milsa, where does the Rabbanon get it? Dom Rabbanon Zecher Tzadik Livrach. Omer Leid Aksiv Zecher Tzadik Livrach. It says, it's in Ksuvim, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. For me, where they get it. Omer Leid Aksiv Zecher Tzadik Livrach Midoraisa Menoah. I want to know, where is the concept seen in the Torah? Dichsiv. It says, Vashem Omar, when Hashem was going to go to destroy stone, so he said, am I going to hide from Avram? And immediately once they mentioned Avram, immediately Avram is given a bracha. So you see, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Where do we see this concept? It's also written. So, but the Gemara wants to know midaraisa minolan. Where is the source midaraisa? Dichsiv vayehal ad stone. That Lot went to move to stone. Immediately when they mentioned stone, uksiv anshe stone ra'im v'chataim l'Hashem me'od. It means the moment you mention the Rasha, it's cursed. Or Lazar tzadik dar ben shnei rishoim. I'll give you an example of a tzaddik that lived between two Rishoim. He didn't learn from his actions. I'll give you an example of Rasha dar ben shnei tzaddikim v'lo lomad masayim. I'll give you an example of a Rasha that lived with two tzaddikim, didn't learn from them. Tzaddik dar ben shnei Rishoim v'lo lomad masayim Ovadia. That's the Navi Ovadia. He was the Navi when Achav and Izevel were the king and queen. So they were terrible Rishoim, and he didn't learn from their acts. He was like in charge of their household. Rasha.
Hello? Sí. ¿Cómo?
Rasha dar ben shnei tzadikim v'lo lamad masayim ze Esav.
Pero Robbie sí va a venir.
The Rasha that lived with two tzadikim, meaning Yitzchak and Rivka, and he also didn't learn from their good deeds. Rabbi Lazar. From a bracha given to tzadikim, the opposite, how the Rishoim are miskalel, and vice versa. The way Rishoim are cursed,
Yes.
you see how much more the tzaddikim are given bracha. Mi birchasan shel tzaddikim atalom eklal shem dichsiv. Ki dativ lemana sheitzavez banaves beiso acharav. This is about Avram, who's gonna teach his children after him. Uksiv basrei vayomer Hashem zakas dom va'amoraki rabbi. Immediately afterwards, it talks about after he's masked the tzaddik. You see how the more evil of the Rishoim, and therefore their punishment is going to be great. Umikalosan shel Rishon atalamed bracha l'tzadikim. It says the Sodomites were sinners to God. Vashem amar lavram achrei pored lot mimo. And this is immediately followed by a pasuk that after Avram separated from Lot, he's given a huge brachas. In fact, the whole world could be created just for one tzaddik. Shenamar vayar lokim esaor ki tov, ve'ein tov el tzaddik. Shenamar imru tzaddik ki tov. So as long as you have one tzaddik in the world, that's enough. On Rabbi Lazar kolam shakech davar mitalmudoi gorim galus levanov. Somebody who forgets his learning, it leads to galus to his children. Shenamar vatishkach toras elokecha eshkach banecha gamani. If you're going to forget my Torah, I'm going to forget your children. No, that's not the punishment. The punishment is you are taken down from the greatness that you have. Shenemar, ki ata das mo asta, ve'amascha michayimli. If you are mo'is from my knowledge, that means you forget my knowledge. How do you forget knowledge? You don't chazer. You got to be chazering all the time. So it's sort of your fault that you're forgetting your knowledge, because you got to have a program of chazara. So if you do that, I will reject you from serving as a kohen for me. A tzaddik doesn't pass away from this world until there's another tzaddik in the world to fill his place. Like we said, the sun rises, the sun sets. Like we're learning in the Navi Shir, until the setting of Eli's sun, immediately the rise of Shmuel Aramosi's son. Kadosh Baruch Hu looked throughout the generations. He saw there's going to be very few tzaddikim. You know what? He planted a tzaddik in every generation to make sure that every generation has at least one tzaddik. Shenemar, ki lashem etzuke eretz, vayashes alehem tevel. The world has to stand on that tzaddik. The world remains even for one tzaddik. One tzaddik can be the foundation of the world. The legs of his chassidim will be watched. But chassidov is not tzaddik, it's tuva mashma, it's plural. Chassido refers to one chassid. If a person has lived the majority of his life, usually it means 35 years, and he hasn't sinned, then he won't sin anymore. That means his habits will have legs. And if his legs will protect him because he hasn't sinned up until this time, for half of his life, he won't sin the other half. The opportunity to do a sin comes to his capability once or twice, and he restrains himself from sinning. He won't sin again. From the same pasuk. Bolatame, person wants to go and sin, poiskin lo. You know what? They don't stop him. They open it up for him. Go. However, bolatire Messiah noisoi. If somebody wants to do tshuva, he gets helped. He gets helped. Person who sold kerosene and persimmon oil. One smells bad, one smells good. Balim doid neft. Person coming to buy kerosene. The owner tells the guy, you go measure out what you want because I don't want to make myself dirty and smell. However, balim doid a parsimon. If the purchaser wants to buy perfume, the seller tells the buyer, wait, let me measure out for you, because he wants some of the fragrance on him. Same thing with Averos. By Averos, Hashem just opens up a Pesach. He doesn't, but by mitzvahs, he helps the guy himself. Committing Averos stops up a person's heart. Shenemar, Veloti tamu bahem v'nitmesem bam. Am tikra v'nitmesem ela v'nitamtem, which means like to seal it up. Tan rabban al titamu bahem v'nitmesem bam odem etame atzma ma'at. The person abuses himself, makes himself tamei. Etame no so harbe. The reward will be get a lot of tumah. Milmata mitamino so milmalo. That means if milmata means it's his rotzoin to do these bad things, then from lamalo they'll make it worse for him. And if it's mitame. If he does it to himself as well in this world, it happens to him in the next world. Make yourself holy. If a person makes himself, sanctifies him just a little bit, Hashem helps you to be miskadish more. Milmata, miskadish so milmal. If you do it down here, Hashem will do it from above. And if you do it by the mazeh, mekatcher solon labor. Harlach amar labamuna, harlach amar labamuna, harlach. Okay, so tomorrow I can only teach at 9.